I found out I was cut from my brother's wedding through a forwarded email, not even a personal message. It hit me mid-scroll, just another swipe through an endless inbox of nothing. A name popped out. The subject line read, Ethan and Vivian's wedding weekend. Final details. I paused. That was my brother, my only sibling, my only once best friend. I wasn't supposed to be reading this, because I never received an invite. The message was meant for someone else, a family friend probably, but it had my name. Not in the to field, in a paragraph that listed who wasn't coming. And there I was. Avery won't be attending. She's out of state and, family stuff. My breath locked somewhere in my chest. My face felt numb, my fingers too still. It wasn't a typo. It wasn't some mistake. I called Mom. She answered too quickly. Her voice was too high, too cheerful. Sweetheart, what a surprise. How's everything going up there? I didn't play games. I just saw an email about Ethan's wedding. I'm not on the list? There was a pause. Not long, just enough. Then she sighed, the kind of sigh that made me feel 12 again, the kind that meant I was the problem. Avery, we didn't want drama, okay? And with things being so delicate lately, well, it's just a better vibe this way. A better vibe? I repeated, the words dry on my tongue. I'm his sister. We're keeping it small, she replied quickly. Vivian's side has a lot of guests. We just couldn't. You have cousins from Florida on that list. A guy I haven't spoken to since middle school is invited. It's nothing personal, she said, her voice sharpening now. Don't be sensitive. It's just a wedding. But it wasn't just a wedding. It was the clearest message they'd ever sent me. You're the problem. You're the one we leave out. I hung up without another word. The apartment was quiet, save for the hum of the fridge and the faint traffic outside. I looked at the photo on my bookshelf. Me and Ethan, age 10 and 14, grinning at the Grand Canyon, arms around each other like the world couldn't break us. I reached up and pulled the frame down, opened the back, slid the photo out, tore it straight down the middle. There wasn't any crying, no anger, just clarity. A shift in gravity, like I'd finally stopped orbiting a sun that never saw me shining. I opened my laptop, typed one word, flights. I didn't know where yet, I just knew a way. My fingers hovered over the keys as destinations blurred together. Somewhere quiet, somewhere no one expected me, somewhere that didn't carry the echo of being told, you don't belong here. Naomi, my cousin, texted me out of the blue. Hey, weird Q, you going to Ethan's wedding? Just realized I didn't see your name. I stared at the screen, then typed, didn't get invited. Her reply was instant. WTF? You're his sister. I didn't respond. I didn't need more people telling me I was right to feel what I already felt. Disposable. In my bookmarks, half buried between job alerts and recipe blogs, was a tab I hadn't opened in weeks. An application to a women-led startup fund in Vancouver. I'd been meaning to finish it, but life had a way of making me shelve my own things for others. I opened the tab again, and this time I started typing. The sun outside dipped lower, staining my walls with orange light. A breeze brushed through the window, gentle and cool. I stood, stretched, walked toward the small suitcase under my bed, unzipped it, started folding clothes. I wasn't running, I was realigning. Mom would call again. Ethan probably wouldn't. Vivian surely wouldn't. But I wouldn't be here to answer anyway. I looked around the room one last time, the only space I'd ever owned that was truly mine. I unplugged my charger, threw it in the bag, and zipped the suitcase closed. I didn't cry. I booked a flight. Santa Barbara was 90 degrees Fahrenheit and glowing, but I was flying in the opposite direction, toward peace. The airport buzzed with the low hum of people going somewhere fast or pretending they had a purpose. I moved through it like vapor, not hurried, not slow, just existing. My carry-on rolled behind me with soft, even clicks. I didn't speak. I barely looked up. But inside, I could hear one voice looping in my head, the same one that always came when I started to doubt myself. Just let things slide, Avery. That's how this family works. Ethan said it once during a fight, like it was gospel. The family motto. their sacred defense of cruelty disguised as manners. That was years ago, but I still remembered where I was standing, what I was holding, even the shirt I wore. And now, in a terminal full of strangers, I realized he'd never seen me as someone who shouldn't be pushed aside, only someone who was supposed to accept it quietly. Not anymore. At the gate, a barista with tattoos like watercolor asked for my name. I gave it, and she smiled, just a little, just enough. Avery, like the bird, she joked. I gave her a soft smile back, something between polite and real. It was the first moment of human warmth I'd felt all day. She handed me my espresso and said, "Hope your flight leads somewhere better." "Me too," I replied. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Naomi again. "Did you seriously not get invited?" I asked Ethan, and he just dodged the question. I typed back, "Don't bother asking again. I'm not going." I didn't say where I was going, not even to her. Some silences deserve to be held tight. Boarding the plane felt like stepping off the edge of an old life. No one stopped me. No one begged me to stay. I had one suitcase, a ticket, and an empty space inside me where disappointment used to live. It wasn't painful anymore, just hollow. A quiet echo of, "You're not needed." Somewhere over Nevada, turbulence shook the cabin lightly. I blinked at the seatbelt light, then at the notification that slid across my screen. "Congratulations. You've passed the first stage of SheFounder's Innovate HER grant. Step 2, submit your pitch video." For a second, I forgot how to breathe. The startup idea, I had shelved it months ago. After Ethan called it acute distraction, I'd let it die. But here it was, clawing back from the grave like it had never needed their approval to matter. I didn't smile, not really. But my fingers hovered over the screen like they finally belonged to me again. The woman in the seat beside me had a baby. It drooled and squirmed and screamed, and I didn't mind. The noise felt honest. Hours passed. We crossed into Canadian airspace, and the clouds outside looked like crushed velvet, soft, close, forgiving. As we began to descend, the captain announced a slight delay due to wind. I didn't care. There was no one waiting at baggage claim, no one expecting me for dinner. For once, that felt like a gift. When the wheels kissed the runway, I exhaled slowly and looked at my phone. 1 bar of service, then 2. Then the rush hit. Messages, alerts, photos. A group selfie popped up from the rehearsal dinner, everyone dressed in pastels and fake teeth. Ethan's smile was wide. Clara's hand rested proudly on Vivian's shoulder. The caption read, "Rehearsal dinner vibes. Chuck almost. Their Har family love." My name wasn't even a ghost. I stared at the image. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then I went to the group chat labeled "Fam minus drama" and hit block, then leave conversation. The silence that followed didn't hurt. It was almost tender. Outside, the air was cooler than expected. I stepped off the shuttle into the driveway of the forest side resort I'd chosen for no reason but the fact that no one in my life had ever mentioned it. The pines stood tall and ancient. The sky was the kind of gray that made green look greener. My lungs filled with cold, unsentimental oxygen. The concierge greeted me by name. I nodded once, offered no conversation. Not because I was rude, because I was rebuilding, and I didn't need anyone's approval to do that anymore. In the room, I dropped my suitcase and opened the balcony door. Wind curled through the trees, whispering a language I didn't yet speak but wanted to learn. It smelled like cedar and new beginnings. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone still in hand, eyes unfocused. My past felt like something I could finally fold away. Not forget, but fold, like laundry that no longer smelled like home. For once it wasn't about them, it was about me. Logan's message came in like a dropped wine glass, abrupt and shattering. It was nearly noon in Vancouver. A shaft of light split through the trees outside my window, scattering shadows across the floor like spilled ink. I had just poured a cup of chamomile tea, savoring the soft clink of porcelain against granite, when my phone buzzed twice, then again, then a fourth time. My first instinct was to silence it. Lately, peace came in airplane mode, but the sender's name made me pause. Logan. The preview read, "You're not going to believe this?" Then another. "Sending a video, just watch." I hesitated, the mug halfway to my lips. Something in my chest tightened, like the air had dropped in pressure. The video loaded slowly, 30 seconds. The setting was familiar even though I'd never seen it in person. Westwood Cliff Hall, white drapery flapping in coastal wind, floral arches too perfect to be sincere, and right in the center, Vivian, in a storm of tulle and tears, heels in one hand, bouquet in the other. She hurled the flowers across the crowd like a grenade. "You lied to me about her," she screamed, voice cracking into the mic. Heads turned. Gasps swelled. Logan's camera jostled as people shifted uncomfortably. Someone whispered, "Did she just say?" But the audio cut out. I stared, unmoving. My tea had gone cold. The screen lit up again. Clara, you need to call me now. Clara, Vivian's having a meltdown. Clara, this is getting out of hand. Then, Ethan, one message. Ethan, we didn't mean for this. I set the phone down. The cup clinked against the table a little too hard, so it unraveled. Without me there to stitch them up, the seams had finally split. I walked onto the balcony, letting the air hit me full in the face. Cold, pure, honest. A crow croaked in the distance. Somewhere inside, I felt a soundless click, the kind of closure that doesn't come with apologies, only exposure. Naomi's text came quietly. Naomi, you made the right call. That was it. No emojis, no fluff, just truth. I let the words settle like dust on a shelf that had been too clean for too long. Another message, this one from Logan again. Apparently Vivian found out Ethan told people you were too unstable to be at the wedding. Someone overheard. She flipped. I inhaled sharply, but it didn't hurt. It was a dull throb of confirmation. I wasn't just forgotten. I had been weaponized, used as the scapegoat before I ever got a chance to show up. More buzzes. Clara. Don't do this, Avery. This is your family. Clara. We needed this day to go right. You abandoning us didn't help. I nearly laughed. They broke it, but blamed the absence of glue. Then Naomi again. She didn't just flip. Grandma stood up during the toast. She said, "The only one with dignity isn't here." That stopped me. I blinked at the screen, read it twice. Grandma Edith, the one who never raised her voice, the one who always passed the potatoes in silence during our most awkward family dinners, who folded napkins when Mom got sharp, who watched me across the table with the kind of eyes that saw everything but chose peace. She spoke, and she chose me. A sound escaped my throat, a half laugh, half breath, the kind that comes when the truth lands so cleanly you have no resistance left. The phone kept buzzing. Photos now. Logan sending more from the aftermath. The venue half empty, Ethan with his head in his hands, Clara holding a wine glass like it might shatter in hers next. Vivian's maid of honor, whispering furiously into someone's ear. And then Ethan again. Ethan. Please, just say something. Ethan. We didn't mean for this. Ethan. You know how Mom is. I picked up the phone. I read each word. Then I flipped it over, face down on the table, and walked away. I didn't throw it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream or type paragraphs I'd regret. I just poured out the tea, brewed a fresh cup, and sat back down in silence. Turns out going quiet was the loudest thing I'd ever done. My inbox lit up like a fire alarm, and for once, it wasn't me they were trying to save. The morning air in Vancouver was cooler than usual. A thin mist hung over the forest edge, curling around pine trunks and drifting lazily across the window panes of my suite. I held a cup of oolong tea in both hands, letting the warmth soak into my fingers as the distant sound of water slipping over rocks played a quiet symphony beyond the balcony. Then the phone started buzzing. Once, twice, 7 times in under a minute. I ignored it. The messages kept flooding in. The red notification dots stacked like dominoes, tumbling one after the other. Texts, missed calls, emails, even a voice memo. They weren't from friends, not from anyone who'd noticed my absence before. They were from the ones who had written me out. I let the steam rise into my face and exhaled through it. In the old days, I'd have picked up immediately. I'd have tried to mediate, patch things up, explain myself in ways that never seemed enough. But now, all I did was take another sip, slow and steady, and slide the phone across the table without even unlocking it. There had been a time when silence was my prison. Now it was my power. Still, curiosity tugged. Eventually, I tapped open voicemail. Clara's voice filled the room, shrill and frantic, fractured by tears and fury. "Avery, you can't keep ignoring this." Haley threw her bouquet at Ethan. Grandma stood up and started yelling about dignity and betrayal. "It's spiraling. You need to fix this mess." She paused, then added in a lower, gritted voice, "People are starting to ask where you are and why you weren't there." I smiled into the rim of my cup. There it was, the real panic. Not the family crumbling, but the perception of it. Next came the texts. Vivian. "Your absence was manipulative. I trusted you to not make this about yourself." Ethan. "I didn't know she'd react like that. I'm sorry." Clara. "You're being childish. This is still your family." Logan. "They're falling apart. And it's kind of glorious, TBH. I chuckled. Just once, just enough. Opening Instagram, I tapped through my photos. A quiet shot from the trail behind the resort. Filtered sunlight cutting through dense forest, soft moss blanketing the ground like velvet. I posted it with a caption that had been growing in me like a seed all morning. "Healing in peace, not in pieces." Within minutes, the likes started, then comments. And Jules 1993. "Girl, this energy is what I aspire to." Irina T. "Family doesn't mean sacrificing your sanity." Aird Tyler K. "Wish I had your strength. Still trying to be the glue in a broken house." Dozens turned to hundreds. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years reposted it with, "This," and "Say it louder." One even messaged, "I wish I left when I had the chance." I put the phone down again, this time with care. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was breathing. For the first time in years, I was just breathing. Naomi sent a photo without warning. It was a picture of a handwritten letter, creased, a little smudged with what looked like coffee stains. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Grandma Edith. The woman who'd rarely spoken during our gatherings, who'd watched everything like a quiet sentinel. The letter read, "Don't let the loudest voices bury your worth. You carry our dignity now." I froze, not from pain, from recognition, that someone had seen me all along, that someone knew I wasn't being dramatic or rebellious or unstable. I had simply reached my limit and walked away instead of burning down the house. For years, I'd been called difficult for not letting people walk over me twice. For years, I'd been labeled cold for needing boundaries no one else respected. But now, in a quiet suite hundreds of miles away, the same silence I was once blamed for had become the only sound they could hear. And they didn't know what to do with it. I traced the curve of Grandma's handwriting on the screen, then turned it off. Let it fade to black. That was the day I stopped explaining myself. For good. They didn't want me back. They wanted their image restored. The cafe near Whistler smelled like burnt maple and fresh paper, the kind of place that served coffee in ceramic mugs and had no patience for rush orders. I picked the table near the window, sunlight pooling across my notepad and the open laptop beside it. The mountains loomed quiet in the distance, steadfast, unbothered, a sharp contrast to the storm inside my inbox. The envelope had arrived that morning, hand-addressed in a careful script I recognized too well. Clara's handwriting, still curling the S's like she was writing a graduation card. I hadn't opened it. I didn't need to. The subject line of her email was enough. Family Restoration Brunch. Let's start healing together. Healing, as if that was a group activity I could be summoned to. I flipped the envelope over and over in my hands, then placed it face down beside the sugar jar. Still sealed, still irrelevant. The next ping came from Ethan. I stared at the screen for a long time before opening the message. "Maybe if you had been there, things would have gone right. Mom's trying to fix things. Can't you meet us halfway?" Halfway. The word sat sour in my mouth. I remembered telling Naomi, weeks ago, that even if they apologized, I wouldn't believe it. And this wasn't even an apology. It was a soft accusation, a veiled way of saying, "You let this happen." They didn't want me. They wanted the version of me that kept smiling through being erased. Naomi messaged right after, like she could sense the guilt clawing up my spine. "Naomi, don't fall for it. They want a photo, not your presence." I didn't reply. Just opened my photo app, scrolled through my gallery, and found the one I'd taken the evening before. A fiery sunset spilling across the treetops, a slice of orange split by silhouette. I uploaded it to Instagram with a caption I didn't hesitate to type. Funny how people miss you most when their lives fall apart. I watched the likes tick upward without watching. My fingers were already moving to open the browser tab I had bookmarked and ignored too long. She Founders Global Grant, final submission window. A loading bar blinked at me, then a prompt. Upload your story. Show us why your vision matters. I began typing. It wasn't perfect. I didn't bother making it sound pretty. I just told the truth. About resilience, about building something that didn't require anyone else's permission to matter. I wrote about being dismissed, then daring to believe that what I had to offer was more than enough. The words came easier than I expected. No tremble, no backspace frenzy, just honesty. Line by line, it felt less like filling out a form and more like rebuilding the parts of me they tried to reduce. I clicked Save Draft, then hovered over the Submit button. I thought briefly of the family brunch, the smiles I'd be expected to fake, the clink of glasses raised in hollow reconciliation, the way they'd pose me next to Ethan and caption it, "Siblings strong again." A lie with a filter. I pressed Submit. The confirmation screen glowed, quiet and complete. It didn't cheer or flash or congratulate me. It just appeared. And in its stillness, I felt something unhook from my ribs and float free. I had sent more than a startup pitch. I had sent off the last version of me that waited for their validation. I took a slow sip of now lukewarm coffee and looked out the window, past the trees, into sky. I didn't need their table anymore. I was building my own. The invitation sat unopened on my kitchen counter. So did the past. It had been sitting there for 3 days. Heavy cardstock, gold trim, my name spelled in calligraphy they probably paid someone else to write. Family restoration brunch, a time to reconnect. Clara's idea, I assumed. Polished words for unfinished wounds. The new apartment was small but light-filled. My first place without shared walls or expectations. Lavender in a mason jar sat by the window, delicate and upright. I had picked it out myself at a weekend market. No occasion, no reason, just because I wanted to. I glanced at the envelope again, then picked it up, ripped it clean down the center, fed each half into the paper shredder with a kind of reverence, like I was burying something that had died long before I admitted it. The hum of the blades wasn't angry, just final. The She Founders email had come in earlier that morning. Subject: Round 2, you made it. They wanted me to schedule my pitch for next week. I clicked the link and opened my calendar, feeling a strange peace settle in my chest. No fluttering, no second guessing. This was mine. Not a favor, not a seat I had to beg for. Just mine. Naomi sent a photo midday. It was a shot of the brunch table, round, white linen, smiling faces, Clara at the head, Ethan beside her. The caption said, "We're all here, almost." They had left a chair open, symbolic probably, or performative. I didn't reply, didn't like it, didn't share it. Then Logan texted. Vivian officially broke it off. No announcement, just packed and left. Honestly, can't blame her. I turned the phone face down. The breeze picked up outside, carrying the scent of pine and warm pavement. I opened the window and let it in, filling the space with a silence that didn't feel empty at all. I opened Instagram and snapped a photo from my balcony. Rooftops, treetops, a stretch of skyline, calm and unbothered. Caption: When you stop waiting to be chosen, you start choosing yourself. I hit post. The lavender on the sill swayed gently. Somewhere down the block, a bird called out, its voice unhurried, unapologetic. I made tea, not to soothe, just to enjoy. I didn't return to them. I returned to myself. In the quiet aftermath of a storm she never started, she chose not to return to the ruins they offered, but to the life she built on her own terms. What began as exclusion became liberation, and silence, once used to erase her, became her most powerful voice. Justice doesn't always roar. It often whispers from within the strength to walk away. Like the final chord of a long-forgotten melody, truth may arrive late, but it resonates when everything else has gone silent. Sometimes choosing yourself is the loudest justice of all.